Today, we're diving into the incredible journey of Jamal Okoro. His life is this powerful story about how a single promise, made in the absolute darkest of circumstances, can end up lighting up the entire world. This right here, this statement from Jamal himself, is the key to his whole story. You see, he's not really talking about technology or business in the end. He's talking about light as the foundation for human dignity. That one idea, it's the engine behind everything that happens next. So to really get the mission, you have to get the man. And to get the man, you have to go all the way back to where it started. So let's do that. Section 1, A Promise in the Dark, which takes us to Umudidi village in Nigeria, way back in 1995. These few words, they just paint such a brutal picture of Jamal's early life. I mean, this wasn't just being poor. It was a constant, relentless state of crisis. Just imagine the weight of losing 3 children before Jamal was even born. Food was so incredibly scarce that a single bowl of gari, which is a staple made from cassava root, had to be enough for a whole family, for a whole day. You know, this struggle actually has a name. It's called energy poverty. And it's like this invisible force that just traps communities in this cycle of hardship. Think about it. Without reliable power, clinics can't keep medicines cold. Kids can't study once the sun goes down. Farmers can't use irrigation pumps to save their crops. It literally defines the boundaries of your life. And this is the moment everything changes. One evening, a very young Jamal finds his mother, Amina, just weeping silently by an empty cooking pot. The despair is just absolute. And in that moment, he makes this promise to her. It's a vow that would become the one single driving force for the rest of his entire life. So how on earth does a boy escape a world like that? Well, for Jamal, the answer wasn't just about hope. It was about knowledge. Section 2 is all about how his hunger to learn became his only real path out of the darkness. When you look at his path, you see this really clear pattern. At every single stage, Jamal's raw talent was met by a crucial opportunity. I mean, it starts with him learning under a tree, right? But that leads to a real scholarship. His incredible ingenuity, making a solar charger out of scrap parts, that doesn't just win a science fair. It gets him noticed by a mentor, Dr. Adabavo, who basically becomes his guide to the much wider world of Lagos and its university. He earned every single step, but each one also depended on someone else seeing his potential. So he gets to Lagos, and you think he'd left the darkness behind. But no, he runs into constant power blackouts, which just instantly remind him of the total darkness of his village. And this is where it all comes together. His childhood promise and his new engineering skills finally collide. The result? A company he called Sunforge. But innovation is never a straight line, is it? His first attempt at a solar kit that costs less than $50, it was a total failure. The product literally just fell apart. But instead of quitting, he sleeps on his workbench, sells his only good pair of shoes for parts, and then has this breakthrough. He integrates a small, tough battery. And that one simple fix, it changed everything. Sunforge started to grow. You have to remember, after graduating at the top of his class, Jamal got tons of lucrative job offers. He could have so easily just chosen a comfortable life, but he turned them all down. He famously said he refused to build toys for the rich, when his mission was to bring light to the dark places. And of course, with success came a whole new set of massive challenges. A corrupt politician tried to seize his company. Competitors stole his designs. And his response was just radical, completely counterintuitive. He open-sourced his core technology. He basically turned his rivals into collaborators. And when these powerful investors from Silicon Valley came calling, he insisted on this wild ownership structure. 51% of the company would be held in a trust, with the profits legally required to be reinvested into the communities it served. That integrity, that refusal to back down, it became the very foundation of the company. And from that foundation, Sunforge grew from this tiny workshop into a global force. Section 4 shows us the absolutely staggering scale of its impact. Just take that number in for a second. 80 million. By the time he was 40 years old, Jamal's work had directly provided clean, reliable electricity to 80 million people who had never ever had it before. The scale is it's breathtaking. So what does a number like 80 million actually mean for people's lives? Well, in the areas with Sunforge check, hunger rates dropped by 40% because farmers could finally use solar irrigation.
Kids could study for an extra 2 hours every single night, and clinics became 75% more reliable, able to keep vaccines cold and power life-saving equipment. This is what light really means.
But providing light, that was just the first step. With the money he made, Jamal launched the Okoro Foundation to attack the entire ecosystem of poverty. You can see the strategy here. It was never just about charity. It was about building self-sufficiency. Local factories for local jobs, solar pumps for food security, and scholarships to create the next generation of innovators just like him. And this is where the story comes home. Full circle. Years later, Jamal goes back to a completely transformed Umudi, a village that now has paved roads, a health clinic, streetlights. He sits with his mother under a mango tree, and she just says to him, "You kept your promise." It's just the ultimate validation of a life dedicated to one powerful purpose. When you boil it all down, Jamal Okoro's story isn't really about solar panels or foundations, is it? It's about the unbelievable power of a single focused promise. It shows that purpose isn't always something you go out and find. Sometimes it's something you declare, right in the face of impossible odds. His entire journey began with a promise to just one person. It really makes you wonder, what kind of change could start with ours?